Hi everyone, I'm Dan from JazzComposersPresent.com, an online space where composers, musicians, and listeners come together to celebrate the music we love. I'm joined today by Lauren Elizabeth Baba, violinist, violist, and composer, director of the theBABAorchestra, and curator of the Big Band Nights music series in Los Angeles. Lauren is here to show us how to let your music write itself.
Thanks, Dan. I'm excited to be here and thrilled to be a part of the Jazz Composers Presents community. So my mini lesson is on letting the music write itself, and it explores my personal goal for composing, which is to enter the realm where the music sounds and it feels like it already exists. So here is an overview of my compositional process. The first part of it is conceptualizing and sketching it out. So this incorporates walks, sitting in silence, sketching out with markers, any ideas, and this can be a vast array from shapes, words, feelings that you have. And this can sometimes, for me personally, last several months, especially if I don't have a time frame on when a project is due for a composition. The next part of it is improvising and transcribing. So for me, composing and improvising are two sides of the same coin. I can't do one without the other. So I incorporate that into my initial writing phase. So for example, I'll record a part on piano and sing it and transcribe what I improvise. And it can be even little parts of an improvisation or anything that speaks to me. And through that, for the next step, I can create a more thoughtful idea or figure out what I was meaning to say or what I was actually hearing. Then I start to open up my mind's ear. This is especially important when I can't figure out what I'm trying to write musically, but I can feel it inside. And this involves arranging and rearranging any idea that I have improvised. So, and like I said, this helps when you are forming new ideas, but you can't quite put it into music yet, but you viscerally know how it feels and you know that it exists. So this is all stuff that lives inside of your mind's ear. The next step is I will lay out the score or any type of sketches or ideas on the floor or on the wall. And this is a part of the process that I will do continuously throughout composing, from the initial sketch all the way until it's finalized full score arrangement. So I lay it out on the floor or on the wall and walk through it and sing the part that I can, but play it in my head, sing it into real time and feel any adjustments that I want to make. So this process occurs while simultaneously bouncing around these additional concepts. This involves tricking your brain, creating boundaries to encourage creativity, embracing challenges as opportunities to enrich your creativity, and observing and listening to where the universe wants the music to go. So some of these, and they're constantly transforming for me. I never stick to the same thing more than once because I like to push myself into a new area of composing that I'm not used to doing before. So this can involve only writing bass lines or writing a daily chorale for like a month or a couple weeks prior to when you are planning on sitting down and actually composing. This also includes expanding and writing music to a poem or to a color or to an object or something. And this also incorporates, if I hear a piece of music that I'm initially not fond of, instead of dismissing it and burying myself into my comfort zone, I will ask things like, why don't I like it? And what would I want to hear happen differently? Because I find that it's easy to fall into listening to the things that you agree with and like, which you should definitely do. But if you hear a piece that you're like, I don't really like how they arranged that, or I don't really like this chord that they went to, I feel that's when I find the magic comes. And it's fun to go into a little universe, whether it's for a minute or longer, and create what you would like to hear actually happen. And that is the spark that I usually wait for and am excited for the compositional process of my own piece. Okay, so this is how letting the music write itself will translate into a full score. So I am going to be talking about one of my pieces called Frankincense that I composed for the Fundamental Freedoms Commission from the International Society of Jazz Composers and Arrangers. And I used all of these concepts for composing this piece. So Frankincense was initially conceived as stagnant motion. So when I was conceptualizing this composition, the idea of stagnant motion was what I was basing everything off of. Further into that, it was the recurring repression that produces the fear to move forward and the ruminating and recycling of ideas as you're trying to figure out why things don't progress or change. So I initially composed a series of triads that looped with a 64-bar melody, and here's the initial sketch of it. It was to create stagnant motion that hovers as incense does, and to represent the persistent drive that questions its ways out but never progresses. So I initially sang this, and as you can see with all of the sketches and colors and markers and arrows, everything was rearranged after I initially wrote down this improvisation. So then after this came the finalized 64-bar melody here in this reduced score. These concepts transformed into tangible musical ideas, and the main theme was discovered the further I dove into this composition. So the melody represents freedom, which is the 64 bars of a persistent drive that questions and wonders about ways out but never progresses. The pyramid chords and notes are sort of the fear that hovers around and encompasses everything like incense would, and it muddles any thoughts and any musical ideas. The repeated triad harmony represents the stagnation and repression as it just continues and continues. And then the root rhythms are the fight to progress in this environment. So here's an excerpt of Frankincense from a live performance with my big band, theBABAorchestra. So another short example of my compositional process will be from my piece, The Myth of Sisyphus, movement number 1. This is based off of Albert Camus' book called The Myth of Sisyphus, which is based off of the Greek myth, the myth of Sisyphus. And the idea is that Sisyphus is pushing a boulder up the hill for eternity. He's condemned to Hades to do that. But throughout his journey, Albert Camus discovers this idea of while going through something difficult, why not do it with a smile if you are especially condemned for eternity to do it? So that concept of the idea of the concept of anything dirgy and drony and meditative is going to be portrayed in this example. And this is diving into my mind's ear of when I became, years ago, very tired of single notes being the roots of things. And I was searching for a sound and a feeling inside. So one of the first things I discovered was why not do something a little unorthodox and figure out half-step intervals as the root notes, but conceiving them as single root notes. So when you have a half step, this was the first time diving into that concept and trying to figure out what I was actually hearing. So here is an excerpt of Sisyphus from my first record with the BABAorchestra called Another Ride on the Elephant Slide. This is the sonic palette that I based the entire 2 movements off of. Like I said, it's the dirge drone meditation where the basses and trombones and piano are swelling at their own pace chromatically around B flat and creating this sonic palette. And this final excerpt is how I use the half-step interval as a root note instead of single root notes, and I had the bass tuned down a half step so they could create and pluck both strings and to create this half step for open strings. So here is this short excerpt. This is my process. Everyone's process is different, but hopefully this should create a buzz in your head that either agrees, disagrees, challenges, or excites you to examine your own compositional process further. Transforming conceptual ideas takes experimenting and purposefully stepping out of your comfort zone into an open-minded freedom to explore non-traditional methods. So furthermore, my goal is to enter the realm where the music sounds and feels like it already exists, while simultaneously discovering musical concepts that you can't quite put into tangible music yet, but is something that you observe in your mind's ear. So with that, thank you for watching and happy composing.
Thanks for watching today's mini lesson. Be sure to like, share, and subscribe. Drop any questions, comments, or suggestions for future videos in the comment section down below. To watch our full-length events and participate in live Q&As with our presenting artists, head over to jazzcomposerspresent.com. Thanks, and we'll see you next time.